Hey you, welcome back. My name's Jack. I'm the snack that stares back. And you're here to hear some more rambles on the internet. Well, let's grab our tea and tear into this tea. This story by Chicken Filet EpiPen. Am I the a-hole for refusing to replace my nephew's EpiPen after he unnecessarily used it because of something I said / my food? Okay, weird title, I know. Basically, my nephew has a pretty severe peanut allergy, to the point where they carry an EpiPen around all the time, just in case. From what I know, if he mistakenly eats a peanut or something, they have to use the EpiPen ASAP. My brother drops my nephew off at my parents' house pretty randomly. Most of the time he'll call ahead, but sometimes he comes without warning. But my parents are usually there and responsible. Of course, when we know my nephew is coming, we put away all the peanut products. Today, I DoorDashed some Chick-fil-A for lunch, not knowing my brother and my nephew were going to stop by. I left the Chick-fil-A on the dining table while I finished a class, and I walked out. I saw my nephew eating one of my nuggets. I panicked because I knew that Chick-fil-A uses peanut oil to fry their chicken. So I ran and told my brother that my nephew ate a chicken nugget that was fried with peanut oil, and he immediately used the EpiPen on my nephew. When my brother's wife found out, she was furious because apparently peanut oil is refined and therefore my nephew isn't allergic to it, so they had just wasted an EpiPen. My brother is blaming me and says I need to pay to replace the EpiPen since it's my fault it was used. But I feel like, as his dad, he should have been aware of what his son was or wasn't allergic to and stopped him from eating something if he wasn't sure he was allergic to it. However, that was their last EpiPen, and my brother says they can't afford to buy another one. I'm 16, so I do have a job, but it's minimum wage, and I only have about $800 saved, and it's part of what I'm saving up for college. I can't afford to spend $600 on an EpiPen. Not the a-hole. You were concerned for his safety and alerted his parents to the possible issue. It's always better to be safe than sorry. Sure, in hindsight, it was a waste of an EpiPen, but better to waste it than not to use it when it was actually needed. The real a-hole here is the pharmaceutical industry for making life-saving medication so fricking expensive. What the frick? EpiPens are $600? In Australia, a twin pack is under $40 Australian. What the actual frick? Yeah, that's like, what, $22 US? As an Aussie who lived in USA for a few years, I often heard the "I don't want to pay for other people's healthcare" argument, and it was just the dumbest thing. Do people not understand how insurance works? You pay money into a big flipping pool, and then the insurance company uses the majority of that money to fund other people's healthcare claims. Nata, you're right. His son is his responsibility, and he should have been more aware of what his son is eating and what he can. And frankly, expensive as it is, $600 is still a small price to pay to remove all risk of harm. You shouldn't have to pay. Obviously, the biggest hole in this situation is the American health system. That means EpiPens are astronomically expensive and have to be paid for out of pocket. Yeah, dude, you were 16. You shouldn't have the responsibility to pay for this thing that was really just to ensure the kid was going to live. Sounds like the mother just wanted someone to blame for this fiasco aside from the husband, because the husband didn't know better, I guess? Which is a stupid argument because you didn't know either? Not the a-hole. They should be doing a better job to ensure that the family is aware of when they're coming over. This story by Doot Doot Doot. Am I the a-hole for snitching on my neighbor who has a dog in an apartment complex that doesn't allow pets? I live in a pretty small apartment building. I think there are like 4 apartment complexes per floor. It's a relatively new building, and so not all of the apartments are currently occupied. On my floor, there is only one other woman who occupies the apartment right next to mine. When I moved in, I remember being told about a strict no-pet policy. My neighbor, who I've only ever talked to in passing, has somehow been sneaking a small dog into her apartment. Not sure how she gets past the security cameras, but she has managed to smuggle this dog into her apartment at least a month now without getting caught. My problem is I work 40-hour weeks, which have only gotten more stressful due to the pandemic. Recently, this dog has been barking and waking me up at the same time in the middle of the night. At first I didn't say anything because I thought maybe it could be a service animal. But after having this happen repeatedly for the last week, I went over to my neighbor and asked if she was allowed to have the dog in her apartment. She ended up confirming that it wasn't a service animal, and kinda laughed about how clueless management is since they haven't caught on to her having a dog. I told her, well, can you make him not bark at 3 AM? 'Cause I can hear it almost every night. She told me she'd take care of it. Sure enough, a few nights ago I get woken up by this dog. So, yesterday I told management. Today, my neighbor comes over and knocks on my door and is fuming. She starts telling me that she just got a warning and that if she doesn't get rid of the dog, she risks getting evicted. She told me how she's new to the city, doesn't know anyone, and this dog is all she has to keep her company, and now she either has to get rid of it or risk losing her apartment. I told her it's not really my problem, especially since I brought up the fact that her dog kept me up several nights. She told me I was cruel for snitching on her since now she risks losing 2 important things. After thinking about it, I kinda feel bad now. So am I the a-hole? Nata, quite frankly, screw her and screw that. You have a right to live in the pet-free environment that you are paying for, and she can suck it up or move somewhere else. Not the a-hole. If it's a rule in her lease, she was aware and chose to do it anyway. They would have found out eventually, and I don't think this was going to end any other way. Ooh-wee, this is a rough one. I'm going to go with Nata unless you were rude about it, but I could see an argument either way. If she wanted to have a dog for company, she should have made arrangements that included her being allowed to have a dog in her apartment, something that is not always easy. I guess it depends on where you live, but a no-pet clause is illegal where I live. Technically, you're not the a-hole, I just feel bad for the lady too. I can't imagine not being allowed to have a pet, but I'd surely train it better if my neighbor was being woken up at 3 AM. Let's point out you weren't complaining about the dog, you were legitimately complaining about the noise. If she didn't want management to know, it was on her to be a good neighbor and keep it quiet. Nata. Personally, I don't think you gave her enough time to train the dog to do better. After you finally mentioned to her that the dog's making too much noise, you gave her a few days to get the dog to not be barking at night? Regardless of the pet's age, they do require a bit of time to train that kind of stuff. Regardless, legally and by the terms of the lease and the place you're living at, you are completely in the right to have done this. But honestly, I think you are the a-hole. Specifically on how little time you gave her to really fix up this mess. Of course, her excuse that she needed the pet for company is a terrible one because dogs aren't the only pets you can get. No pet policies almost always refer specifically to cats and dogs. I guarantee if she actually spoke to the people she got the lease under, they would be totally fine with an actual bird or something like that. Regardless, she knew what she was getting into. She equally holds more responsibility in keeping her pets quiet. What's that, Mr. Teapot? That I realized I shouldn't have bought as a green one because it doesn't work with the green screen well at all? They should like and subscribe? I think that's a very good idea, Mr. Teapot. Otherwise, he'll hurt me. Please like and subscribe. This story by Skewybird. Am I the a-hole for posting a screenshot of a person's messages on my Snapchat story? Background info. A few days ago, I was following the people I knew on my Instagram account, and I followed this one kid from my school. Let's call him Brayden. I don't necessarily like him since he's a jerk, but I thought that I might as well. Seconds after I follow him, he messages me asking why I followed his account. I told him I just wanted to follow people I knew, and he goes, "We ain't friends." I told him then, just don't accept my follow request, and out of the blue, he says, "And I don't accept you as gay either, because if you gay, then you have a mental illness." This left me a bit shocked at the change of topic, and I responded with a, "Good for you, bye," and blocked him. Now for the ATAR part. I decided that since he wanted to be a jerk, I'd be a jerk back and post a screenshot on my Snapchat story, without any blocked names or censors. The next day at school, a bunch of people, mostly his friends, came and told me off for posting it because he deserves his privacy and you shouldn't be so mean. I'm genuinely concerned for people who don't think what he said was wrong, but I'm starting to question if I'm the a-hole or not, so am I the a-hole? Nata, although everyone is entitled to their opinions, they are not entitled to being bigoted, homophobic jerks. He probably is selling a different image of himself to others. People need to be held accountable for their words and actions. Hopefully, this will give him an opportunity to learn and change and maybe question why he has these opinions. Yeah, big difference between exposing someone's secret personal info about themselves they want everyone to not know about due to insecurity, versus exposing someone's completely blatant homophobia. I was ready to say you're the a-hole at the title, because people do deserve privacy, but the minute you're homophobic or racist or sexist, etc., the people around you should know. I'd take it a step further and talk to someone from the school about it. Let's make bigots afraid again. Unfortunately, I don't think sharing any crude messages like what he did accounts for something like cyberbullying. But nonetheless, I think it's an issue that the school should be aware of. As if this guy is so willing to express this opinion, it's likely there are many others in your school who are thinking the same, or at least exposed to that kind of mentality. Regardless, I don't reckon they're the a-hole for doing this. Again, they were just being a bigot. At the very least, being edgy just for the sake of being edgy. You are not the a-hole for calling out poor behavior. This story by Little Dragon Queen. Am I the a-hole for calling the cops on a neighbor? So, my family and I recently moved into our new house. It's a great house, huge house, but we have an issue with the fact that we are on the corner of a street. Now, about half a mile away is an apartment complex, need to know for later. All of last week and this week, I've been fighting with a minivan for a spot in front of my house. The dude doesn't live in the neighborhood. I've left a note on the guy's windshield asking for him to not park there, as the next closest spot for me is to park at least another half mile away. The driver crumpled up the paper and left it on the back of my car, which has parked between the minivan and a truck. Minivan was illegally parked on the road turn, and I can't complain about the truck. I left another note being less nice this time. Nope, same result. Okay, fine. Earlier this evening, I called the non-emergency line for my area and explained that they were parked to where you had to actively avoid their car while turning. A few hours after I called, I watched as two cops, one marked and one unmarked, pulled up, looked at the car, and what I assume is went to go talk to the owner. I look forward to see your guys' responses. I'll even edit if anything more happens. You're the a-hole. It's a public street. You sound like an entitled brr. He probably has to park a half mile away as well. More so you're not the police. Oh, please, indulge me. You said, I live right here. I want to park my car right here, but this guy is parking his car. He doesn't even live here. He needs to get the frick out so I can park my car exactly where I want to park it so I don't have to walk anywhere. Nothing else in your story matters. The rest is entitled fluff. Not the a-hole. Hell no, 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 no. He has no right parking outside your property, then being rude when you politely ask him to cease. Calling the non-emergency line was a real nice move. As a cop, it annoys the frick out of me when I hear my dispatcher buddy talk to me about people calling up about non-emergencies, so thank you. So I'll say it again, not the a-hole. Everyone sucks here. He's a jerk for parking somewhere random he doesn't need to if it's true there's literally no other option for you to park in near your house. But you're a jerk because you don't own the street or street parking. That's one of the disadvantages of not having a driveway. If you want to call the cops on someone for parking on your property, buy some property on which there is room to park. Info: do you have any kind of legal right to that parking spot? If it is a public space, he has just as much right as you do to park there. Well, it is a public area, but he's parked so where if you turn right, you are going to hit the back end of his van. It's legal for the minivan to park there, right? You want him to park elsewhere, but you don't have a legal claim to the spot, right? I guess the police will decide if how he is currently parked meets their criteria for legal or not. But I think your issue is that you feel entitled to the public spot that's near to your house, but you don't own it or control it, and the minivan driver is allowed to park there, which annoys you. Yeah, it was good on her at first to just send that letter asking if he can park elsewhere, but that's all the power she gets in this situation. And honestly, clearly there isn't any other place for him to park if he is parked so further away from his own place of living. This just vibes entitlement to me. If you actually have some sort of health condition and things like that that require you to be as close to your house as possible, okay, I can understand that scenario. But if that was the case, I think we all know you would have definitely boasted about that. So overall, I think Yita. Oh, you're still here. Oh, hi. What? Okay, well, look, if you're here, you might as well have made sure you liked the video and subscribed. You have some weird thing going on between us here if you haven't already. Come on, stop being such a tease. Make it Facebook official. In this case, YouTube official. I love doing the content, and I'd love to hear your opinions. Again, always leave your stuff down below. I do try to read them. I don't always get notified of the comments, so I may miss a few, and I apologize in advance. To those who have already subscribed to me, thank you so much. It honestly means the world. Well, that's the end. Be sure to check out some more stories on the channel while you're here. And I guess until then, I'll see you for the next one. Bye-bye.